Runescape. You know, the old MMO that launched like a bazillion years ago and seems to still be growing every single freaking year and is really kind of just outside the top two big MMOs. Well, they're launching a new MMO. No, wait, sorry. Not an MMO. A new game. That's a co-op survival game. And the funny thing is, every freaking MMO should be doing this shit. Like, they should have been doing this for long time. But first, in brief, what is the actual game? Well, the game is RuneScape Dragonwild, an upcoming co-op survival open world for 1 to 4 players set in the RuneScape IP and on the forgotten content of Ashenfall. Your ultimate goal is to challenge the dragons, the looming threat, something you'll need to build toward. You'll be crafting gear, leveling up, preparing potions, cutting down trees by launching spectral axes at them, and taking on different roles, shielding your allies, launching devastating spells, or leaving a hail of arrows in the dragon's hide. Or I guess building homes, cause you can do that too. The game will be launching first into early access, and we'll be doing it soon. But this video isn't about that game, despite how damn fun it looks to me. Especially games like this that like to lean into the RPG elements like Enshrouded, but have a sort of more free play sandboxy style to them. It's about why I think stuff like this is so important to MMORPGs, not just now, but always. The first MMO I ever played was Ultima Online, and it was the evolution of a long-standing RPG series that was turned into an MMO title. EverQuest did it backwards, building out games from their IP after the fact, making 2 single-player ARPGs in Champions of Norrath 1 and 2, and making an RTS game in Lords of Norrath, and so much more other mediums like their TTRPG. Hell, they even had books. Like books that I literally just got. They had all these different ways that they were expanding out. But it's the biggest MMO out there, the biggest launch ever, that I think we sometimes forget wasn't just out of nowhere. World of Warcraft would never have been as big as it was if it didn't have over a decade of players built into it, built into their IP from their long-standing RTS series, an RTS series that had just come off one of the biggest games ever for the RTS in Warcraft 3. They had a built-in audience. More recently, we've seen MMOs go the opposite direction, over and over. New World could have actually just launched as a survival game to build an IP. Throne and Liberty actually had an incredibly established IP in Lineage, and I guess decided just to not use it, because building a new IP is apparently easier. One thing you'll notice with these examples I'm talking about is that it goes both ways. It's not just having a built-in IP recognition like World of Warcraft and Ultima Online did before launch, but also expanding your IP recognition post-launch like EverQuest did. It's something I wish more MMOs would do across the board. Make games in the IP to make the IP itself more valuable to its players. Arthas pulled me to World of Warcraft because of Warcraft 3. I gave more of a shit about Thrall in World of Warcraft because of the great book about Thrall. It wasn't the game itself that just doing all the heavy lifting. I only played Champions of Norrath because I had loved EverQuest and I wanted more lore. I wanted more story. I wanted the world that I was experiencing in EverQuest, but I wanted to see what it felt like in a different way, in a different playstyle, an action RPG. Which, I mean, in that terminology, action RPG, it wasn't like a freaking, like what you expect now. It was basically Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance with a world, with EverQuest skinned on top of it. If you strip away the basis of the MMORPG genre, at least ones that aren't leaning too heavily into the whole sandbox part of it, it's a world. If you strip it to its base essence, it's just a world, and a world has stories. A world has stories to tell, and there doesn't just have to be a single medium to tell them. Having different mediums work together to tell that story can actually be more powerful. Games like Champions of Norrath can act like a funnel into your MMO. Someone could play that game and say, hey, oh wow, they have an MMO. Yeah, I want to see what that's like. I got to expend this linear path in this game. What's it like in this big open world? And the same goes the other way. If you love the game and you want to experience more things, there are these systems that feed off of each other. One of the saddest things to me as a long-term player of MMOs, someone who's been playing MMOs and someone who started writing because of EverQuest, is seeing games become little more than spreadsheets. They're no longer the living and breathing world that EverQuest was or was trying to be. They're spreadsheets. It's more care about an 8% increase in your DPS on your damage meter, or it's more important to rush through the content so you can be world first. And of course, there are people that love that playstyle, it's just not me. I'll never forget the excitement I had when Champions of Norrath 1 and 2 were announced. And to this day, I still wish I could replay them on PC through a port or something. Because it was more of the thing that I wanted so bad. The lore, the world, the IP of EverQuest. You can take entire stories of lore from your games, turn them into RPGs. You can commission authors to write stories like World of Warcraft and even EverQuest did. And it just reinforces the IP over and over again. It opens up more people to potentially go and play the MMO. It opens up more people to go and play the RPGs. It's a self-feeding cycle. And so that's why I love what Runescape is doing here so much. The game itself looks incredibly fun, and it's just the kind of adventure that I badly want to play with some of my friends, and it makes me wish there was an EverQuest version of it, you know? These kind of things are, I think, an underrated part of how you build out an IP like this that works in an MMORPG. I think we look at some of the stuff that didn't work, some of the things that failed or didn't expand the brand enough, and we say like, okay, well then it's just not gonna work, or it's not worth the time or money. But I think there are so many players that would love to experience their favorite MMORPG in a different way, or people that would love their favorite RPG to be an MMO. At least that's what I remember when, like in the early 2000s, just kind of a lot of people saying, man, I really wish they would take Dragon Age and turn it into an MMO. Of course, the result of that was like shit like Anthem and live service. So maybe we should have been careful what we wish for. Let's move on. I want to end this short video with a short PSA to anyone who's making an MMO or considering making an MMO, especially if you're doing it with your own brand new IP. Consider how hard it is to convince someone to try a new IP, and then consider how hard it is to convince someone to try an MMO. Then think about how long and how difficult it is to make an MMO. Sometimes starting that funnel might be the better idea. Just, throwing that out there. And from a player perspective, if you want to think about cost and value, well, wouldn't you rather spend, instead of spending $90 on a mount, maybe spend $50 on a RPG? Just, in the same IP? I would prefer that, personally. The thing is, there's actually a chance that games like this one that RuneScape is making, this co-op survival game, could actually even potentially replace the MMOs. So I would actually much prefer that instead of that, they worked alongside an MMO to kind of feed into the MMO. And that's something I talked about in a bit more detail, a bit more depth in this video right here. We talk about the future of MMOs and the way that I see things going. My name is Redbeard Flynn. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have an absolutely wonderful day.